Hi, Carl. How are you?
Terry, I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me on your show. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. I really appreciate you being on the Choose Courage movement group and a part of my interviews that I've been doing about courage. And I love your story and what you're doing to make an impact on others. We met kind of in a happen chance way during one of my keynotes in Seattle last year, right before everything happened. And you've really helped me get through this last year. And I know that you've been doing some new things as well. Why don't you share with the audience what you do and how you can help them?
Absolutely. So, anyways, once again, thanks again. Yeah, that was what a serendipitous opportunity. It was that way you didn't. It was a women's conference, and I typically don't attend women's conferences, but I was supporting somebody else, and Sherry Burke from Vision Platform, and she invited me, and I had an opportunity to see you speak, which you did an incredible job at. We had some follow-on conversations, and I just appreciate how we've gone to get to know each other and support each other. That's number one. Two, what I do. So once again, my name is Carl J Cox, the CEO of 40 Strategy. The reason I put the J, if you look up online, Carl Cox, you'll find out that I'm this famous DJ from England who I don't look anything like. And so I have to put the J in there. Otherwise, I get DJs following me, and that is not what I'm about. So that's one of like the first things that I put that in there. But what I do ultimately is I help organizations see their vision, see their dream of where they want to go. I help them come up with a strategic plan, and I don't walk away then. I help them. The 40 strategies is most organizations only spend 2% of their time on strategic planning. And as a result of that, they don't get great at it. And so what I do is, since I do this all day long, all the time, I spend that extra time with them to not only to ideate and come up with it, but to help them execute throughout the year. And through that, we can triple the success that typically organizations see, and as a result, they enjoy the process and they have a lot of fun getting to where they wanted to go.
Oh, that's great, Carl. It's amazing how many times that you can come in or people come into a corporation or a business and they tell them everything they need to do, but then there's no follow up in how to execute and how to support that so they can follow through with it. So I love what you do. I know you're so passionate about what you do. And you also have a new podcast. Is that correct?
That is correct. I have just recently started the Measure Success podcast, and I encourage your listeners, if they enjoy this, it's what we do is it's called Measure Success. And from that, we talk about leaders and how they have succeeded and what they've done, not only on a career level, but also on a personal level as well. And it's just been a lot of fun. I've been also taking those insights. I'm currently getting ready to publish and release my first book in June.
Ah,
And as a result of that, it's been fun using these interviews because I'm including some of the content from it to actually publish it. And so it's been very exciting to go through this process.
congratulations, Carl. I didn't know that you were about ready to publish a book. Congratulations on that. That's exciting. Can't wait. All
Thank you.
right. Are you ready for our first question?
Absolutely.
Okay. I always ask you to be in present time in a new moment in time as if you never heard this question before. Do you see yourself as courageous?
So the short answer is yes. I do see myself as courageous. However, I also see there's different levels of being courageous and acting in courageousness. So for example, I'm not a Navy SEAL. I am not, I'm not jumping out of airplanes. I'm not flying an F-16 pilot. And so I think there's varying levels of having courage and being brave, but certainly from what I can do from my elements, I have certainly taken some risks that people wouldn't do and they've been fearful of to do. And I've been personally freaked out
Yeah,
doing.
I'm
And
sure.
I've been able to take some things and have some courage. And from that, it's amazing once you could get over yourself. And I'll put that in the right term way. It's amazing when we could get over ourselves and realize that we all put our pants on one leg at a time.
Mm.
And once we can get over our own fears, we can accomplish amazing things. And we don't have any more time than anybody else. But if we focus on the right things, we can have a real significant impact.
It's true. So true. So what, do you want to do you want to share a story that you have or anything where you know that you've, been courageous?
Yeah, it's interesting, and I was thinking about this. There's several different parts. There's a couple just simple business ones I was in a perfect situation, getting highly compensated at a company that had grown from 70 employees to 450 employees in 3 years, and it was an incredible experience. I can't say enough. But it wasn't my passion fully to be there,
Mm,
and so here I have 4 kids and getting ready to go into college. And I see this opportunity to open up a strategic planning software company that's based in Australia, to open up their Americas office with effectively no sales or very little sales, and go for it. And
yeah.
so this was a very freaked my wife out, as you can imagine.
Yes,
She was
yes.
like, "What are you doing?"
Mm-hmm.
And my kids got freaked out a bit, in this process.
Mm-hmm.
Um, However, I knew it was a thing I should be doing, and so there was one example from a business perspective, where I had courage. Another one recently was I had, when I actually got into this role. It's funny. I was just writing this in my book and talking about it, reflecting upon it, because I'm talking about setting goals. And you could set your basic goals. I'm going to improve something 10 to 15%. But what the flip goals are is like when you're like, no, I'm going to do this big, hairy, ambitious goal. And this actually comes from Grant Cardone, Good to Great, and the 10X rule from Grant Cardone. And they talk about these concepts of,
I know him, by the way.
which one? Do you know Grant or Jim
Cardone.
Collins?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
That's
cool.
crazy. Yes.
Yes,
Okay. That's a great
yes.
book.
So,
Sorry. I had to just
yeah.
say that. Okay.
No,
Great.
no. So he does. And so he was very inspirational to me. And so I read this article about, okay, you should read 100 books in a year if you're CEO. And I'm like, I maybe read 10 a year, maybe, a really good year, 20. But, the reality, I think the average person reads 1 to 3 books a year.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, I could do this. And so I started down the path, and I actually publicly put it on LinkedIn. I said, I'm going to read 100 books this year, and actually posting regularly. This means you have to do 2 a week, to accomplish this goal, basically. And so I'm going through, and I'm doing really, really well. But then stuff happens, and the holidays happen, and my time is starting to get eaten up a little bit. So I failed. I think it was about 76 books I completed.
Oh, is that all? I mean, not.
And
Yes. Still
well,
pretty
so,
good.
so it's funny is,
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
failed, right? I failed the 100, but what I did is let's just assume I did 10 a year. I just did 7 to 8 times more than I typically would have done.
Yes.
And so I actually shared, I said, I have publicly failed, but I actually completely succeeded. and
Mm.
and and so that was the thing of being willing to saying something publicly, b, follow up with it, c, actually say I fail, but 3, realize I actually accomplished way more than I ever would have done. The typical goal setting is, okay, I read 10 books this year, I'm going to improve myself 20%. That means I'm going to read 12 books.
Yes.
Okay, now let's put this in perspective. Let's just say I read, let's round it to 80, because it's 80 and 10 is a lot easier to memorize.
Yes. Yes.
I read 8 years worth of books that I typically would have read in 1 year.
Wow. Okay.
And
That's a lot. I mean, that's a
yeah,
different perspective.
right, right. And so the learning and the ability, it really helped me to do what I'm doing today, is having my consulting business and helping, organizations throughout the United States. I wouldn't have had the confidence to do that if I didn't. I've done about 250 books over the past few years. And through that learning, it has just helped give me the confidence of helping people out. And so now I can have a book, just like you said, hey, we just had a connection. She's like,
Uh,
by the way, I'm a little envious of that, because I did go to his conference in Miami a couple of years back, and he is amazing. But
it's
um, but
amazing. Yes.
but having and knowing that and connecting, it does those things. And literally with a potential client, I just was talking about, he's like, I love Greg Cardone, and it's like, so what it does, it helps connect me with others, and it also connects me with others who are learners and have a
Mhm.
growth mindset.
Mm.
That's important for what I do, because if people have a fixed mindset, well, you
Ah,
deal this is all the time what you do, right? We
yes.
have to overcome that, because if not, they're like, I can only be this big.
Right.
And it's like, no, you can't. You can have such a greater impact, but we have to once again, we have to get over ourselves and realize the things that we can do and go. So
Hmm.
those two things of one, taking a risk in getting very highly compensated. And by the way, I did this again with this. I
Mm-hmm.
left at Cascade Strategy. I had an opportunity of like, hey, run my global consulting business. And I'm like, hey, I still got family at home, and I don't think I want to be gone 80% of the time. So I'm going to start something off brand new, zero revenue again, and go
Oh,
for it.
wow.
And it's gone great. I mean, it's completely exceeded my expectations, and I'm just very, very grateful. But you have to, unless you're willing to burn the ships, as they say, and completely commit, you won't get there. And once again, this was not easy. I mean, sorry, this is a little. My wife and I probably have one of the most tough fights. We're high school sweethearts. We're married 25 years coming up this year. So this,
She's like, what are you doing?
yeah. She's like, you're nuts. You're absolutely nuts. And it was coming out in different ways, but it was all about, you're not going to provide me security anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, this is my passion. This is what I should be doing. And I could circle around. Here we are, 15 minutes later. So I started, and I'm saying this out of humility and gratitude. I want to be careful how I'm saying this. I'm having a bigger impact and having more of a return on investment than I have in anything in my entire life. And so, but I wouldn't have, if I wasn't willing to fight those battles along the way and fight those fears and fight all the things, it wouldn't have never taken place.
Carl, you're such a great example of really having going for, at least having a vision for something bigger, even though you don't know how you're going to get there. And when you do that, you jump into this unknown place and this discomfort, and you don't have everything that you need to feel secure when you're doing that, but you believed in yourself or something greater than yourself. And that's what it takes for us to really step into our full potential and what we're really capable of achieving in our life. And you just described that perfectly. And it really does take facing fear right on, head on, and keep going. And that is a courageous act. And failing is part of it, but making a mistake, excuse me, but making a mistake might just be a stepping stone on your way to success.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. Yep. Yes. And just, we're always not going to meet our full expectations. So my big, hairy, and audacious goal is, once again, a similar concept, good to great, is to impact 1 million people, 10,000 organizations, 100 organizations directly over the next decade. So that's like nuts, right? Like, it's like totally nuts. Like,
nuts, but I love it. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, so what happened? So I didn't tell you, last September, I was driving between Portland and Seattle, and my appendix burst. I didn't know it was my appendix. I thought I just had food poisoning. And so I checked into the local hotel at 2 p.m. and I'm like, oh, everything's going to be fine. It wasn't. 12 hours later, I checked myself into the hospital, and then went through this like crazy nut process of, after I got out, and they checked me in. They're like, yes, you have a burst appendix. I mean, they just thought I had appendicitis at this point.
Right.
Ends up when they open me up, I come out of the operation. They're like, oh no, that's the worst appendix I've ever seen in terms of being burst. So Carl. I'm in the hospital a week. I have 2 drainage tubes. I have an NG tube down for 3 days. I've got all the tubes hooked up that I don't need to mention. It's not fun.
No, and you're in a hospital far away from home, or?
Correct. Yeah. 100 miles away from home. Okay. So family can't see me, and I have to walk with all these cords connected to me with one of those robes, and try to walk while I just had this surgery, knowing nobody, going through this place, and they're like, yeah, just take 2 loops around the nurse's station and just get it done. Okay. So why I brought that up was, first of all, that was kind of nuts, but it helped me to say, okay, I've got to do this book now, because life's short.
I know this. Okay. Yes. And I know this has been a little bit life-changing for you.
Yes. And so that, even though I had that goal a year ago, it just accelerated the need. That's why I set up the podcast. It's like, you don't know. I mean, once again, 50,000 people do die a year of appendicitis. I mean, it does actually, it can be dangerous. It was dangerous for me, but fortunately I was close enough to the hospital, and I was fine, but it was not a fun week. As a matter of fact, it took me 3 months to fully recover again. My next crazy goal is to run the Boston Marathon for you. I'm from Boston originally. So by the way, I hate running. I hate it. I hate long distance running.
I cannot wait to follow you on this.
I've failed twice already. I tried again. So I haven't run anything since August. And I picked up this book, Hal Higman's famous marathon training book. It's like 5th edition. This guy's run 111 marathons. And he's like, just run and I'm like, oh, just the novice thing. So I run 3 miles, but I didn't. I ran 2.4. I had to stop because of traffic light. And then all of a sudden I realized my legs were spaghetti. I'm like, I can't move. I mean, and then all of a sudden my knee is hurting, and which stopped me 2 years ago from running a half marathon. Anyways, long story short, this is not going to be an easy goal, but I'm gonna, God willing, I'm gonna get this done.
You're an inspiration. You are. You're an inspiration. You really are. You're going for it. It's almost like you went from, 50% to 100%, or 80% to 200%, whatever it's been. But like this, whatever's happened after you had that appendicitis surgery, you're going for it. So how are you going to just boil that down for our audience of like what you learned and how they can be courageous enough to do what you're doing right now, and what's the benefit? And just to kind of wrap this up, obviously you have shown courage, and you've had something inside of you that believed that it's worth going through the fear and the unknown to reach what is possible for you and your business and your family. So if there's one little, like a golden nugget that you wrap this all up with, what would that be?
I think you have to, I think that the simple message is this is whatever you think you could change the world in, it is you have to get, I'll just say one thing, you have to get past your imposter syndrome, because we all feel it. Yes. Every single person feels it. I'm sure, Terry, what you do, you deal with this all the time. Mm-hmm. We feel like we're not worthy of making a difference. This is a common feeling in nearly every single extraordinary human being. It doesn't matter whether you're Oprah Winfrey, Greg Cardone, right? We all have had these experiences. So you have to get over yourself. And 2, you have to believe you can do something great. Yes. 3, you have to set that crazy goal. You do have to set the big, hairy, and audacious goal. You have to set these TEDx goals. And when you do that, it's okay that you fail it. It is okay that you fail this accomplishment, but you're going to be 8 times better than you would have been. And that's I think the simple message. And it could be done, and it could be tracked, and you just have to work every day and say, what am I doing today to get to that goal I want to accomplish 10 years from now? Or what, and so that's what, and by the way, for me, money is actually not the driver in all these things that I'm doing. I want to make a difference. And so, but I want to make money to give. And so I give actually 10% of my the first 10% of my net revenues to charity. I got 4 different charities I've selected, and I'm giving, and this is one of future books I want to talk about, because I think us as corporations and charities and organizations give way less than we should. And so that's a separate whole discussion, but we have to do things with purpose. Yes. And we have to be willing to tackle things that we don't think that can be done. And when we do, it's amazing what our mind's capable of accomplishing, what our body's able of accomplishing. And I guess that's the key message. Set massive goals, get over yourself, and just start acting.
Love it. Okay. Everybody out there, set massive goals, get over yourself. And what was the last one?
You got to start. You got to start.
Start. So start today.
Start. Yeah. That's this book back here by Jon Acuff. I mean, you got to start.
Yeah.
Most people don't. They never start. In my surveys of strategic planning, only 20% of organizations who are doing strategic planning actually start their even strategies on time.
Wow.
That means they've already failed before they've started.
That's crazy. That's nuts. Okay, so I want to hear from everybody when you're going to start, and I want to hear some messages from you. And Carl, thank you so much for sharing with us what you do, your story, and your passion, and your purpose, and making a difference, and being courageous. How can people get a hold of you, and for your services, for what you do, and also for your podcast?
You bet. So several different ways to get connected. Number one, you could simply email the email that I bring. It's catch a ball at 40strategy.com. You can also just go to the website, 40strategy.com, 40strategy.com. And then I'd love you to visit the podcast. We have some great speakers who have been on there, real wide variety. I work with all sorts of different types of organizations, but it's called the Measure Success Podcast. Apple Podcasts, it's actually in all the major places that are out there. But through any of those three ways, please feel free to reach out and connect. And I'd love to hear your feedback. So with that, thank you so much for giving the opportunity to talk about that, Terry.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks so much. It's been an honor to have this interview with you. And we'll make sure and put all that information in the interview, and make sure it's Carl J. Cox that you're looking at, not Carl
That's
Cox.
right. Not
all
the
right.
famous DJ, not the famous DJ from England.
Exactly. All right. Thank you so much. It's been quite a joy today to talk to you. All right. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Terry.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.